Peace and blessings to the family. It is me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to M-Vision Photography and Video. Shout out to the Louisiana All-American Sports Network. And shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. In this particular video, I'm going to talk about a couple different topics. But before I actually get into the video, maybe just shout out to Devin the Dream Haney and Brian Norman Jr. Devin the Dream Haney put on a masterclass performance last night. Shout out to him. And shout out to Brian Norman Jr. for putting forth a valiant effort. Shout out to the both of them. But Devin the Dream Haney did his thing. Major props. Major shout out to him. Now, in this particular video, I'm going to talk about, three topics in particular. First and foremost, FAMU has decided after the season that they're going to part ways with current head coach James Colzie. Also, is Southern University potential selection of Marshall Faulk as the next head coach? Is it a good hire? And lastly, the Bayou Classic is coming up this weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. However, for next season, what should be Southern University's identity? Is a team? In addition to that, what sort of players should they go after in terms of recruiting? But first, in terms of, James Colzie, no longer being the head coach of FAMU after the season is over. I thought James Colzie was going to make it through the season. It seemed as if he was safe. However, FAMU's fan base, Rattler Nation, is a lot like Jaguar Nation in Southern University's fan base. And just to kind of give you an example of what I'm saying, when FAMU came to A.W. Mumford Stadium, Pete Richardson Field, for the infamous, what I call, drop 8 game, where, after the game, Eric Dooley said the reason why he ran the ball with, less than 2 minutes left in the game was because FAMU dropped in the drop 8 or some sort of prevent defense, which was a lie. Myself, being a former middle school coach, did it. But even with that being said, the section I sit in Section 8E, there was some FAMU fans, sitting right behind me, on the row behind me, and all of those young ladies were from New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And basically, all throughout the game, they were constantly complaining about, head coach Willie Simmons and starting quarterback Jeremy Musa. And, after a point in the game, I'm like, look, hey, if y'all want to trade Willie Simmons and Jeremy Musa for Eric Dooley and Harold Blood, I'll make that trade 100 out of 100 times. In fact, we can make it 9 if you want. And they was like, nah, no, thank you, I'm good. Well, I'm like, basically, y'all looking to give horse in the mouth complaining. I'm like, y'all do understand, even though the SWAC preseason poll, I don't think they picked FAMU that year, but I picked FAMU not only to win the SWAC East, but I picked FAMU to win the SWAC championship that year, whereas, other people were picking Jackson State and Alabama State to win the SWAC East. I'm like, no, This year, FAMU is going to win it all. They're going to win the Celebration Bowl. And lo and behold, they ended up winning it. But I was telling them during the game, I'm like, look, hey, y'all the front runners to win the SWAC championship and the Celebration Bowl. What are you complaining about? Literally, you're looking to give horse in the mouth and you're complaining about it. And it was like, well, sometimes, Willie Simmons be messing up. Sometimes Jeremy Musa be messing up. I'm like, man, cut it out, man. Y'all complaining for nothing. These are rich people problems at the time. So, they went on to win the Celebration Bowl. But the fact that they were complaining all throughout the game, I'm like, yeah, y'all might be trailing for the vast majority of the game, but I'm not confident that, with Eric Dooley as the head coach and Harold Blood the starting quarterback, that Southern is going to win this game, even though they're winning right now. And guess what? Southern didn't win. So at the end of the day, I'm not surprised that Rattler Nation is not happy with what Coach James Colzie has done since Willie Simmons has left. And, as an outsider, on the outside looking in, to me, truthfully speaking, I know they probably going to do their search also the way Southern did. But there's only 2 real candidates for that job, in my personal opinion, in my humble opinion. The first one is Quinn Gray. He's done an excellent job as a Division II HBCU head football coach, building up his program. But more importantly, he went to FAMU. He's a proven program building coach. To me, he's the perfect candidate for the FAMU head coaching job. And I think if you don't hire him, there's only one other person that I think should even be realistically considered for that job. And that's the person that I affectionately call Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater, former New Orleans Saints quarterback, current Tampa Bay Buccaneers backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, I think if you don't go with Quinn Gray, I think he's the other perfect candidate for that job. So at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see what direction FAMU goes in. However, in my mind, even though you're going to turn over every rock and you're going to try to, interview as many candidates as you could, to me, those are the only 2 realistic possibilities and only 2 realistic candidates for that head coaching job, in my personal opinion. So that's that topic. The next topic is we know that this weekend is going to be the, I think, with the 52nd annual Bayou Classic. And, of course, Grambling is the favorite going into this year's Bayou Classic. But, news broke that, we already knew at the end of the season that Fred McNair wasn't coming back. And allegedly that, Southern University brass has unofficially hired Marshall Faulk to be its next head coach. Now, everybody I talked to says now they're saying it's pretty much a done deal. Truthfully speaking, I'm not probably going to talk about this particular topic again until they officially hire him after the Bayou Classic. But, a certain contingency in Jaguar Nation aren't happy with this, alleged news of him allegedly becoming the next head coach. First and foremost, they feel like, he's an unproven head coach, even though he's an NFL Hall of Famer. This 1 year at Colorado University under Deion Sanders. Basically, this is the only season he's been a football coach. And even though he's an NFL Hall of Famer, he has no proven head coaching experience. And that's the thing a lot of members of Jaguar Nation has been complaining about. Even though they feel like he's going to bring a lot of attention and notoriety to the program. And in addition to that, they believe that, he's going to bring, a lot of brand deals and that type of thing, sponsorships, whatever the case may be. They feel like all of that's well and good, but they don't believe, basically they feel like it's a risk hiring him, or potentially hiring him, because he's an unproven head coach. And all the notoriety and fanfare and sponsorships and, NIL money, whatever the case may be, all of those things are good. But if it does not translate, to winning SWAC championships and celebration bowls, it means nothing. So at the end of the day, I have a wait-and-see approach. I'm probably really not going to talk about this topic again until, after they officially announce it, because there, is a small contingent of people that I talked to. They was like, man, Coach, I'm going to be honest with you. I know that people saying it's official, but I hope some kind of way they could back out of it and get more of a proven, established head coach. It's a proven program building. I'm like, wow, that's strong. So they was like, man, I hope they can hire somebody else like a Felton Huggins or whoever. And I'm like, dang, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, put in the comment section, do you think it was a good hire for Southern University to potentially hire? Because it's not official yet. And until it's official, it's still unofficial. But do you think it was a good hire by Southern University? And lastly, I'm not going to lie, for all my diehard members of Jaguar Nation, Tuesday, I'm gonna say maybe about 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm gonna have season 1, episode 15 of the Tailgate Party. In the next edition of the Tailgate Party, I'm going to talk about the strategy I will use against Grambling in this upcoming Bayou Classic. But in terms of next season, just spinning ahead, looking forward to next season, because I'm not going to lie, this has been a historically bad season. This is a season that I just can't wait until Saturday is over so we can just move forward to next season, because this has been an abysmal season as a diehard member of Jaguar Nation. But what should be Southern University's identity next season for Marshall Faulk or whoever is the next head coach? And truthfully speaking, I think you really need to start to rebuild Southern University's brand. You know, this is one thing that I've constantly talked about in terms of myself and Jay Good. You know, salute to my brother Jay Good. You know, he was the one that also sent me the info in terms of James Colzie. Not potentially, but at the end of the season, he's going to be relieved of his duties at FAMU. And he and I, you know, right after homecoming last year when Southern beat Alcorn State, you know, the conversation I had with Scotty, you know, salute to Scotty of all script. You know, he and I had this ongoing conversation that I turned into a video, which was Southern University's brand erosion. And I think after this season, I think that brand has officially kind of been whitewashed at this point. But to reestablish and rebuild your brand, I think you really need to establish a real identity in terms of style of play you want to play. And I think that's one of the question marks that many people have about Marshall Faulk potentially being the head coach. Like what is going to be his identity as a head coach? You know, both offensively, defensively. You know, where are you? Are you going to recruit the I-10 corridor locally? Are you going to recruit all across the state? Are you going to recruit regionally? Are you going to recruit nationally? So where's going to be your recruiting base? In addition to that, what style and what brand of football are you going to play? What's going to be your identity, since this is going to be essentially and effectively be your first year as a head coach? And basically, you know, it kind of goes back to what I talked about in the 90 plan video. And basically, you know, the first thing I said is the first thing you want to do if you're the next head coach is you want to keep Trey Holly. You know, from what I'm hearing, I don't know how accurate it is. More than likely, Trey Holly is probably going to stay at Southern. You know, if he does, that's a great step in the right direction. But even with that being said, you need an elite level quarterback. You know, that's one thing you definitely need. And when I say elite level quarterback, I'm talking about, you know, the likes of, you know, somebody like a Doug Williams, a Steve Air McNair, a Devontae Kincaid, a Bryant Lee, Austin Howard, you know, Bruce Eugene. You need an elite level quarterback like a Eric Randall, a senior season Quincy Richard, because Southern University quarterback play, you know, over the last few years has been extremely inconsistent, and that's one of the major issues Southern has had. And in addition to having an elite level quarterback, you need a good, competent, you know, good and competent backup quarterback that can hold it down for a few weeks if your starting quarterback gets hurt or injured. The next thing they need is just some savages up front on both sides of the ball. Defensively, you know, you need guys like DeMarcus Miller, who's, you know, one of Southern University current assistants. You need, you know, nose guards and defensive tackles like that guy. You know, you need defensive ends like, you know, Gillis Wilson and Kelby Gibbons. You need linebackers like Chris Cooper and Channing Warner. You know, you need defensive backs like Danny Johnson, like Lenny Williams, like John Williams, like Jerry Wilson Jr. You know, you need a safety like Jamal George or, you know, the late, great Sean Wallace. You need to have a dominant defensive line. You need to have a dominant defense. And then, of course, on the offensive line, you need to have some dogs and some savages up front in terms of your offensive line play. You need offensive linemen like Jatari Carter that could, just be physical, allow your offensive line to be physical and punch the opposing team in the mouth and just move them against their will. In addition to that, you need to have a strong and solid running game. You need to have elite level skill players over the years like Michael Hayes and James Vernon and Southern University has had, so many elite level wide receivers. And you need guys that's going to be elite level punt and kick returners like Fred Bailey, Kenyatta Sparks, Ezra Landry, Willie Quinn. You need a excellent punter like a Matt Bushart, like a Ruben Beauplance. You need a good kicker like a Carlos Leach. And you need to be able to be dominant in all three phases of the game, both defensively, offensively, and in terms of special teams. And more than anything, if the next head coach is Marshall Faulk, which looks like more than likely it will be, you just can't just assume that you bring in players from the FBS level that is going to automatically translate into, elite level players on the SWAC level. And truthfully speaking, you got to get out, you got to recruit, you got to, get allegedly word on the curb is he's going to be the next head coach, Marshall Faulk, and that he's also going to bring in, former UAB defensive coordinator, Ryan Clark. But, it's going to be interesting to see, who's going to be the offensive coordinator. Could you potentially, bring up someone like Felton Huggins? Would you even want to leave Kentucky State? Because, if you was able to get him, you could kill two birds with one stone. You could make him your offensive coordinator. And in addition to that, you could let him be your recruiting coordinator. In the chat, individuals like Teldron Leathers, salute to him. He brought up the idea of maybe bringing somebody like Eric Dooley back to make him your recruiting coordinator. And I'm like, nah, I can't see it. You would go essentially from being a wife to being a mistress. And not only that, but I don't think Southern University will want to bring him back in any capacity. But you're going to need an excellent offensive coordinator, excellent defensive coordinator, excellent offensive line coach, excellent special teams coordinator, excellent recruiting coordinator, excellent strength and conditioning coach. You need to have an excellent coaching staff from top to bottom. And truthfully speaking, one other thing Jay Good and I talked about behind the scenes is, if the next head coach is Marshall Faulk, you need to have your next heir apparent head coach on the staff. And truthfully speaking, theoretically, you would want to have someone that played at Southern University. But truthfully speaking, if you look at Southern University's current coaching staff, it's filled with guys that were elite level players at Southern University, like DeMarcus Miller, like Damon Nivens. These guys were dogs as players, but truthfully speaking, I'm not going to lie, from a coaching standpoint, they've left a lot to be desired. And, truthfully speaking, it's like Southern University, this current version of it in terms of, a lot of the coaches they have that's on Southern staff as we speak. And, that were elite level players at Southern, it has not translated over from a coaching standpoint. So the $1 million question would be, on Southern University's current staff, who would you want to keep? And truthfully speaking, I know some people going to immediately go to Fred McNair. Truthfully speaking, I'm not going to even lie. After what I saw, from the Alcorn State game forward, even against Texas Southern, Texas had that game. Southern had Texas Southern beat. No two ways about it. Southern had Texas Southern beat, and in all actuality, Southern should have won that game. But the fact that, he showed poor clock and game management towards the end of the game in terms of the timeout you score, you should know you're down by 5. You immediately need to go for a 2-point conversion late in the game. The fact that you got to burn a timeout. And not only do you burn a timeout, but after you burn that timeout, you still don't convert the 2-point conversion. And you need that same timeout later on in the game. So at the end of the day, Former Southern University defensive back Christian Davis. He probably the only current, Southern University coach that I would want on my coaching staff moving forward, despite whether it's Marshall Faulk, whoever the next head coach is. Aside from Christian Davis, I probably wouldn't want none of the other current Southern University assistant coaches on my staff. I mean, at least he's young enough, the fact that he left Southern and went, to the University of Houston, I think that's good, valuable experience. The fact that he played on a FBS level, or he went on the FBS level, and he was able to see things from both a Southern University and SWAC perspective, and seeing things on an FBS perspective. I think that type of experience would be valuable on Southern University's coaching staff moving forward. But other than him, I wouldn't want anyone else that's currently on Southern University's coaching staff. But, that's my personal opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong. But, it is what it is. That's just my humble opinion. But that's it for this video. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I am less than 40 subscribers away from that 1,000 subscriber mark. I really want to reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. In addition to that, share the video. Like I said, Tuesday, I'm going to have season 1, episode 15 of the Tailgate Party, where I'm going to break down what would be my game plan to attack Grambling in the 2025 Bayou Classic. In addition to that, also, more than likely, it's probably going to be Friday, Black Friday. We're going to have a Black Friday edition of HBCU Fanatics. Be certain to join the HBCU Fanatics Facebook group, and also come through and check out myself and my brother Jared 11 Green on his channel, HBCU Fanatics. We're going to talk about how Jackson State almost blew their game against Alcorn State last night. And we're just going to talk about, stuff in the HBCU realm, CIAA, SIAC, SWAC, MEAC, so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about all that on HBCU Fanatics. And we also going to talk about that on HBCU Fanatics, but also myself individually on the Tailgate Party. So be certain Tuesday to check out the Tailgate Party. Friday to check out HBCU Fanatics. Also, go check out my brother on his channel, Brent Fox, with his show It's Just Me starring Brent Fox. Also, go check out my brother Grant with Soul on his channel. Also, go check out my brother Cadillac Red on his channel, Supreme Beast Boxing Talk. And lastly, the leader of this phenomenal organization, my brother, 7A Sports TV, has 2 channels, 7A Sports TV, in his backup channel, the No 304 Show. In a little bit, we getting ready to go to my brother Jared 11 Green channel, the Southern Baller Show. Be certain 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time that you come on through the Southern Baller Show and check out my brother Jared 11 Green. In the entire Southern Baller Show collective, myself, Jared 11 Green, Brent Fox, JB, Big Joe Town. We're going to see y'all then. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal Sunday. Enjoy y'all family this Thanksgiving week. And just sit back and think about all of the things you're thankful for. So I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal Sunday. Peace and blessings. And go Jags. You dig.